Professor, Department of ECE, Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology, Deemed to be University, Chennai. So this session, we'll see about the topic memory units in digital electronics. So this is one of the topic which comes under Unit 5 of Digital Logic Circuit subject. So let's get into the topic. So the overview of this session is you will be learning about introduction to memory units, as well as you will be learning about the classifications of different types of memory units like primary memory storage, secondary memory storage, and different types of primary memory storages like random access memory, read-only memory, and so on. And finally, we will be learning about the organization of memory. So the first is about introduction to memory units. So actually, the memory unit is said to be a storing element where you can able to store lots of information as well as data. So a memory is just like a human brain. It behaves exactly like a human brain. Say for example, whatever event we come across in our day-to-day life, everything will be recorded and loaded in our human brain. So this can be retrieved back just whenever we just recollect our past memorable moments. The same way our memory unit does the same. So whatever data or whatever instruction which has been already stored and loaded can be retrieved back as per the user requirement. So basically, this memory unit is being divided into large number of small parts. So each part is called to be cells. So this cells has its unique address which varies between the range of a minimum value 0 to a maximum value of size of the memory minus 1. So what type of memory you use? So depending upon the type of memory you use, according to that, the concerned range gets varied. And the memory unit, whatever we use nowadays, the memory devices, whatever we use nowadays, the data is being loaded in the form of binaries, which is nothing but zeros and ones. So now let's get into the classifications of memory units. So yes, classification of memory units. So basically, the memory unit is being broadly classified into two different types. The first one is primary memory unit and the second one is secondary memory unit. So let's see each one in detail. So first, the primary memory unit. So when you look into the primary memory unit, you can see some of the features of it. So depending upon the capacity, it is completely restricted to a very, very less amount of memory. Say for example, you cannot load or you cannot able to store much more information on primary memory. So it is completely restricted to the size, as well as it is when you look into the speed, the primary memory, the speed is more, it's extremely very high, as well as the cost wise, it is highly expensive too. So when you look into the primary memory unit, it comprises of a hierarchical level. Like the primary memory, it is being classified into two different types. The first one is random access memory, and the second one is read-only memory. It is RAM as well as ROM. So nowadays in smart mobile phones, whatever we use, it all comes with the specification of this RAM as well as ROM. So now when you see the classifications of RAM, this RAM is being further broadly classified into two different types. The first one is SRAM, which is being abbreviated as static random access memory. And the second one is DRAM, which is being abbreviated as dynamic random access memory. And as simultaneously, when you look into the read-only memory, so read-only memory is also further classified into three different types. The first one is PROM, which has been abbreviated as programmable read-only memory. And the second one is EPROM, which has been abbreviated as erasable programmable read-only memory. And the last one is EEPROM or E2PROM, which has been abbreviated as electrically erasable programmable read-only memory. So let's see each one in detail. So before getting into that, let's see first the basic common difference between RAM versus ROM. So the most common difference between RAM versus ROM are listed below. Like the very first point is RAM, it is considered to be a temporary memory, whereas the ROM is considered to be the permanent memory. And the very second point is that, as the name indicates, when you consider the random access memory, as the name indicates, you can able to randomly, you can able to read as well as store the data randomly at any time as well as in any physical location, which means you can able to perform both read operation as well as write operation with the help of random access memory. Quite at the same time, when you look into the read only memory, which is ROM, you can able to perform, as the name indicates, read only, which means you can able to perform only the read operation, whereas write operation is not at all performed in ROM. So this is about the very next important major difference between RAM as well as the ROM. And the very next difference is in RAM, in random access memory, it is also called to be a volatile memory, whereas the ROM, it is called to be a non-volatile memory. So what do you mean by the term volatile? So actually volatile in the sense, if suppose if the power gets immediately discarded, if there is no flow of electric current, what happens is, in random access memory, the data which has been already available in the memory will be completely lost. You cannot able to retrieve the data back. That's what you call it to be a volatile memory. At the same time, in read-only memory, it is considered to be a non-volatile, which means it completely doesn't depend upon the flow of electric current. So even in the absence of electric current, the data will be stored and it can be retrieved back whenever it is being needed by the user. So that's the difference between a RAM as well as a ROM, where RAM is called to be a volatile and ROM is called to be a non-volatile memory. So these are the basic common difference between RAM versus ROM. So again, I repeat it. So RAM, it is called to be a temporary memory, whereas ROM, it is called to be a permanent memory. And in random access memory, as the name indicates, you can able to perform read operation as well as write operation anytime, at any time as well as in any physical location, where you can able to perform read as well as write operation. But whereas in ROM, you can able to perform only read operation but not write operation. As well as the RAM, it is called to be a volatile memory, which means once the power is removed immediately, the data will be completely lost. Whereas in ROM, in case of read-only memory, even though the power is discarded immediately, the data will be stored in the memory and you can able to retrieve the data back. So this is about the different common differences between the RAM versus ROM. So now let's get into the different types of RAM. So actually, so this is about the random access memory. I have told you, I have shared the details in the previous slide. Like RAM, it stands for random access memory, and it also refers to short-term memory. So what do you mean by that short-term memory? It is nothing but, what did I say, is a temporary memory. The data is not being stored for a long period of time. Hence, it is called to be a short-term memory. And here, you can able to store, read data randomly at any time as well as in any physical location. So here, RAM is said to be a volatile because only it can able to retain all the data as long as the computer power is on. So if there is a discarded power, if the power got immediately discarded, the data will be completely vanished away. So it is one of the fastest type of memory. And these are the images which I have displayed about the RAM in the concerned slide. And next, let's get into the ROM. So ROM, it is called to be a long-term internal memory. So long-term internal memory, in the sense, it is considered to be a permanent memory. So it is considered to be a non-volatile memory that retains the data without the flow of electric current. So we don't want any flow of electric current to store the data or to retrieve the data back. And this ROM is an essential chip with permanently written data or program. So these are the images which I have displayed for the ROM. And now let's get into the classification of RAM, which is random access memory. So as we have seen in the memory hierarchy, the random access memory is being classified into two types. The first one is SRAM and the another one is DRAM. So SRAM, it has been abbreviated as static random access memory, and DRAM, it has been abbreviated as dynamic random access memory. So now let's see each one in detail. So the first one is about static RAM. So actually, this static RAM, it is mainly used for storing the data bits. So when you see the construction implementation of this static RAM is being implemented by using one of the major component called as flip-flops. So hope you are aware about this flip-flops in your unit 4, right? So flip-flop, in the sense, it is called to be an electronic circuit, which means it can able to store data in the form of binaries. So it can able to store the data in binaries like zeros and ones. So suppose if you want to change the already previously stored data, you can able to vary the input of the flip-flop. Thereby, you can able to change the previously loaded data. So now this flip-flop can also be called as a data storage element. So when you look at the classifications of flip-flops, like you might have come across in your unit 4, like it is being classified into JK flip-flop, SR flip-flop, delay flip-flop, toggle flip-flop, and so on. So these kind of flip-flop, it is used for implementing or designing completely the static RAM. So since you are using more number of flip-flops, obviously the static RAM is highly expensive. The cost is very high in terms of static RAM. So in addition to this, the power consumption is also more. So while you work on the static RAM, the power consumption will be also more since we are using more number of flip-flops here. So as well as in implementation period, in addition to this flip-flop, we also use transistors. So actually more number of transistors is also used for implementing the static RAM. So nearly 6 transistors are used for more number of per data bit. 6 number of transistors are used per data bit. So this static RAM completely stores the data. So static RAM is a random access memory type that retains the information as long as the power is provided to the SRAM. So hence it is called to be a volatile memory. So it does not have to be periodically refreshed. So let's get into the second classification, which is nothing but DRAM. So before getting into the DRAM, we have certain applications of this SRAM, right? So SRAM is also used in a part of digital to analog converter. It is used in CD players, DVD players, digital cameras, routers, printers, and so on. So now let's get into the next second classifications of RAM, which is DRAM, which has been abbreviated as dynamic random access memory. So when you look into this DRAM, it is also a memory which is used for storing the data bits. So this DRAM can be implemented by using a component called as single transistor capacitor pair. So a single capacitor transistor pair is used for designing this DRAM. So actually the capacitor, you know very well, capacitor is a charge storage device. So you can able to load the data. So you can able to store the data in the form of 2 operations like charging as well as discharging. So when you start charging, what happens is the capacitor, it displays the output of 1, as well as when it performs discharging, it displays the output of 0. So charging and discharging gives you the binary output as sequence of 1s as well as 0s. And when you get into the transistor, so actually the transistor in this DRAM, it behaves exactly like a switch. So it exactly behaves like a switch in the sense the data which is being given, sequence of data which is being given from the capacitor, it carries as an output. It gives as an output back. So sequence of 1s and 0s, wherein which this DRAM plays a major role. So the DRAM, since you are using a single transistor as well as a single capacitor, since you are using a very less number of components, it is highly cheaper, but you can able to store more information, as well as moreover the speed is very slow, as well as it consumes less power when compared with the SRAM. So when you see the applications of this DRAM, it is mainly used in, you can able to find in computers, graphic cards, video games, as well as in some kind of portable devices. So now we have seen about the different types of RAM like SRAM and DRAM. Now let's get into the next topic, which is ROM, which is read-only memory, about the different classifications of that. So previously you have learned about the, in previous slide you have learned about the read-only memory. It is a permanent memory, it is a non-volatile memory where you can able to perform only read operations, etc. So this ROM has been further classified into 3 types. The first one is PROM, which has been abbreviated as Programmable Read-Only Memory, and second one is EPROM, which has been abbreviated as Erasable Programmable Read-Only Memory, and the last one is EEPROM, which has been abbreviated as Electrically Erasable Programmable Read-Only Memory. So now let's see each one in detail. So the very first one is PROM, which is Programmable Read-Only Memory. So in Programmable Read-Only Memory, actually we'll be collecting an empty ROM and we will be programming once. Okay, once you program it, you cannot able to rewrite the content, right? So you can able to program in the sense you write some content on the chip, right? So you write or you program the chip, whereas it cannot be rewritten or even it cannot be erased. So it is called to be the program read only memory. It can be programmed only once and it can be read for multiple number of times. So unlike ROM, the programmable read only memory retains their content without the flow of electricity. So it is called to be a non-volatile memory. So during the absence of external electricity, external electric current also, you can able to retain the data. So the significant difference between the ROM and the PROM is that the ROM can be, it is pre-written by the computer manufacturer, whereas the PROM, it is nothing but you collect it as a blank memory and then the user write on it, whereas once it has been written, you cannot able to erase the content, you can able to read it in number of times. And now let's get into the second classification of ROM, which is nothing but the EPROM, which has been abbreviated as Erasable Programmable Read-Only Memory. So this is one of the advanced version of PROM, Programmable Read-Only Memory. So when you look into this, you can able to see here Erasable Programmable, which means you have a single chance here. You get a single chance where you can able to write it. Once it has been programmed or once it has been written, you have the choice of wiping the content completely, and again you can able to rewrite it, but only for a single time, or only for once it has been allowed. So once it has been written, you cannot able to rewrite the content back. So how come the content can be wiped away, or how come the content can be erased? Is here in EPROM we use ultraviolet rays. So ultraviolet rays is being used for erasing or wiping the content. So say for example, what they do is they take the EPROM chip and they shine the ultraviolet rays on it. They just shine the ultraviolet rays so that the content which is being written in the EPROM will be completely removed away. And this is the image which I have shared in this slide, which is nothing but the EPROM chip. And the next one is about the third classification of read-only memory is EEPROM, which is electrically erasable programmable read-only memory. So this is also an advanced version of the EPROM, wherein which, as the name indicates, electrically erasable. So electrically erasable in the sense completely you erase the content with the help of electrical things. You just pass the electric current to wipe the content in EEPROM. So when you look into this electrically erasable programmable read-only memory, you can write multiple number of times, as well as you can erase, you can able to wipe the content also multiple number of times. So more number of options is being provided in EEPROM. But when you look into the quality of the content may completely get degraded. Why? The reason is because you keep on writing on the concerned memory and again you wipe it and again you write it. So when it is repeated for n number of times, the quality of the content may get degraded. So here, as such, the name indicates electrically erasable. It has been, the content has been wiped completely with the help of passing electrical waves. So when you compare your PROM, that is your EPROM, erasable programmable read-only memory, with electrically erasable programmable read-only memory, the erasing procedure is different. So in EPROM, you erase the content with the help of UV light, whereas in EEPROM, you wipe the content with the help of electric current. So when you see, the electrically erasable programmable read-only memory, it is, the erasing content, the erasing procedure can be followed by, like take the entire memory content. What they do is they split the memory content into multiple number of blocks. So the erasing procedure will be carried out block by block, so that the erasing procedure will be much more easy when compared with the previous type in EEPROM. Yes. So now let's get into the next major part of the second category of memory unit, which is nothing but secondary memory. So secondary memory, it is considered to be one of the slowest as well as cheapest form of memory. So it cannot be directly processed by the CPU. So what we do is, the content which has been available in the secondary memory, we just copy the content into the primary memory and then we start performing the process. So in case of secondary memory, this is considered to be a long-term storage. So long-term storage in the sense you can able to preserve the data for a long period of time by using this secondary memory devices. So most commonly used secondary memory devices are like magnetic disk, hard disk, magnetic tape, USB drives, CD players, and so on. So these are some of the very good examples of secondary memory devices. Say for example, when you look into the hard disk, the hard disk, it comprises of enormous capacity. It comprises of huge capacity where you can able to store a lot of information. So when you look into the capacity, it is around approximately it is equal to 40 gigabytes, where you can able to store the data, which is exactly 300 times more than that of the main memory what we. So this hard disk, it is completely slow. It performs a task very slow, in very slow manner, as well as it is highly cheaper too. And when you look into the another secondary device like floppy disk, so floppy disk, it is used to transfer the software between computers. So when you look into the floppy disk, the capacity is very less when compared with the other secondary memory devices, as well as the speed is also very slow in certain floppy disks. So these are some of the secondary memory devices, which is completely slow, but it has a huge memory for storing the data. So these are some of the examples of secondary memory devices like USB flash drives, hard disk, optical disk, memory cards, and some kind of online storage services like Dropbox, file managers, as well as Open Drive. So far we have seen about the different, what is the memory unit and what are the different classifications of memory unit like primary memory and secondary memory, and what are the further sub-classification of primary memory like random access memory, read-only memory, as well as further classification of RAM, which is static RAM, dynamic RAM, as well as for further classifications of ROM, which is nothing but PROM, EPROM, as well as EEPROM, much more in detail. So hope you have learned all the basic classifications of memory unit right from the beginning till the last. Now let's get into the next topic, which is nothing but memory organization. So how come you organize the memory? So it has been organized with 5 different types. The first one is main memory, second one is auxiliary memory, third one is associative memory, and the fourth one is cache memory, and the last one is virtual memory. So let's see each one in detail. So the first one is about main memory. So when you look into the main memory, as such we have seen right from the first slide, the same thing has been repeated over here, which means the main memory, it is one of the memory unit wherein which it comprises of a random access memory, where you have a static random access memory as well as a dynamic random access memory. And how come it is being implemented? So as I told you before, a static RAM, it is implemented by using flip-flops, where you can able to store lots of binary information like zeros and ones. At the same time, the dynamic RAM, it has been completely implemented by using a single capacitor as well as a transistor, where the data, the binary informations like zeros and ones are being stored in with the help of capacitors by the process of charging as well as discharging. So the dynamic RAM is also used for implementing the main memory mainly. So this is about the main memory. And now let's start with the next second type, which is the auxiliary memory. So the most commonly auxiliary memory devices used in computer systems are magnetic disk, tapes, magnetic drums, magnetic bubble memory, optical disk, etc. So actually, when you see this auxiliary memory, you can able to find some of the features. So features like it comprises space-wise, it comprises of a huge capacity. You can able to store lots of information, as well as cost-wise, it is completely cheaper, right? And the speed of this auxiliary memory seems to be pretty slow. So in auxiliary memory, programs and data are stored for a long period of time. You can able to preserve data for a long period of time by using this auxiliary memory, where it is also called to be a long-term storage. So it is said to be a non-volatile memory too. So what do you mean by a non-volatile? Where if you remove the power, you can able to retain the data back. So it doesn't depend upon the flow of electric current. It is said to be a non-volatile memory. So now when you compare, when you make the difference between main memory as well as the auxiliary memory, when you make the difference, you can able to see the main memory holds the program as well as the instruction when the program is in execution period, whereas this auxiliary memory holds the program and instruction when the program is not in use, when it is in not active state. That's the main difference between the main memory as well as the auxiliary memory. So now let's get into the next classification, which is associative memory. So this associative memory, it is also said to be CAM, which has been abbreviated as content addressable memory unit. So content addressable memory unit, in the sense, in this, the memory unit can be performed, the stored data can be identified by using the content. By using the content, you can able to retrieve the data back, rather than choosing for the memory location, or is rather than choosing for the address. Only with the help of content, you can able to retrieve the previously stored data from the memory unit. So you can find this associative memory in certain applications, like it is used in high-speed searching algorithms, as well as it is find its application in high-speed searching applications. So this is about the associative memory. And now let's get into the next topic, which is cache memory. So actually, this cache memory, it is completely and extremely very fast memory. So this cache memory, it is exactly located next to the processor. So speed-wise, size-wise, this cache memory is very small in size, where it is completely volatile. It is called to be a volatile memory. So what do you mean by the term volatile? As I told you before, once you discard the power, automatically the entire data will be lost from this concerned memory. So hence this cache memory is called to be a volatile memory. And when you see the cache memory over here, it acts as exactly a buffer. It acts exactly as a buffer between the RAM as well as the CPU. So what do you mean by a buffer? Actually, the buffer, it is said to be a temporary holding place, where you can able to store the data before transmitting as well as before receiving the data from any other external device. It acts like a temporary holding place, right? So any external devices, like for example, if you're connecting your system with your keyboard or with a printer or any other external devices, this buffer, it acts as a temporary holding place for both transmission as well as receiving the data. So this cache memory, it exactly behaves as a buffer between RAM as well as the CPU. So when you look into the cache memory uses of this cache memory, so this cache memory, it holds the frequently requested data and instructions so that they are immediately available to the CPU, so that the access time for the data will be completely or drastically reduced. So when you look into this cache memory, it is being classified into three types, like level 1, level 2, and level 3 cache. So normally, for example, in our personal computers and normally in our PCs, what we use two types of cache memory among these. And now let's get into the last memory, which is nothing but the virtual memory. So this virtual memory, it is said to be a storage allocation scheme, where a portion of a program or data are brought into the main memory as they are needed by the CPU. So what happens here is the process becomes swapped inside as well as outside of the main memory, such that it occurs different places in main memory at different times during the period of course execution. So this virtual memory, it is considered to be a concept which is used in some large computer systems, for which permit the user to construct programs as through a large memory space. So a virtual memory system, it provides a mechanism for translating the program generated address into the correct main memory location. So this is about how come, so far we have seen about the different types of memory organizations, like how come the memory is being organized into various types, like main memory, associative memory, auxiliary memory, cache memory, as well as virtual memory. So in this session, I hope you have learned briefly about what is a memory unit, what purpose we use a memory, and what are the different types of memory devices we use normally in our day-to-day life, and what are the hierarchy of memory units, like primary memory and secondary memory, and what is the basic difference between RAM as well as a ROM, a random access memory, and read-only memory, and why you call specially the RAM as temporary memory and ROM as a permanent memory. And hope you have learned about what you mean by the term volatile and non-volatile. So why RAM is said to be a volatile memory, and why ROM is called to be a non-volatile memory much more in detail, as well as you hope you have learned about the static RAM and dynamic RAM. So what components are used? So generally static RAM and dynamic RAM, whatever the case can be of, it is mainly used for storing the data, right? So how come it has been implemented? What are the inbuilt components present in SRAM and DRAM, like flip-flops, transistor capacitors, and so on? And then when coming to the ROM, read-only memory, hope you have learned about the subclassifications of ROM, like programmable read-only memory, erasable programmable read-only memory, and electrically erasable programmable read-only memory, and why you name so it as erasable, electrically erasable, and so on, and how you start programming it. Programming is nothing but technically, generally you say it as a writing something on the kernel. Say, for example, you take a flash memory. Flash memory, it is a device where you can able to write, you can able to again wipe the content, and again you can able to write. A very good example for flash memory is nothing but the USB drive, what we use, right? The pen drive, what we use nowadays. You can able to write, then again if it is not necessary, you just delete it, and again you keep on writing it. So it is a very, very good example for flash memory, where you can make a point, you can make a note of here, that is the content doesn't get degraded. Whereas in the previous stage, what I have saying in EEPROM, in electrically erasable programmable read-only memory, I said you that the quality will be degraded when you keep on writing and wiping the content n number of times. But whereas in flash memory, the quality will not be degraded. So there is no issue in the quality. So like we have seen about all the different types of RAM, ROM, and all the thing. And finally, we have seen about how come a memory can be organized, and what are the different types of organization memories, like main memory, auxiliary memory,